present to everybody over the next couple of months or over the next year as I try to stay up to date with our with the research that's going on out there in the world and also with our own research campaign. But before we get into some information about the research that the CFS Association is spearheading, let's do another polling question.
We didn't give you very many options here. I guess the data's going to be skewed no matter what, so you either get to tell us you really like it or not at all. But it would just be helpful. It looks like we've got 3/4 of you voting, and we'll show the results here. Most people have indicated that they're at least on the happy side, given only 2 responses here, so that's great to see. And as Suzanne indicated when she first began her comments, the association has been involved in research from our very beginning. We were founded in 1987, and the very first dollar raised and sent out was to fund research, and so that has been an important part of our identity and our organization from the very beginning for the last 20 years. And in this year 2008, as we brought Suzanne on board as our full-time scientific director at the end of 2007, our board made the very important strategic decision that research would be an even bigger part of our future than it had been our tradition. And so we have launched in 2008 this campaign to accelerate CFS research, which has, of course, a fundraising component related to it, and we are setting out with a very aggressive goal of raising $1 million in this calendar year to really propel the research forward in a rather unique way. Many of you will compare this to the dollars being spent in cancer and HIV and autism and other conditions, and recognize that $1 million is really a drop in the bucket when we're talking about a condition that affects up to 4 million people and has the severity and the long-term impact on individuals' lives. But this is an effort to sort of give the research effort a shot in the arm, for the association to take a leadership role in defining where the most promising opportunities are, and I think Suzanne did a terrific job of outlining what we have learned in the last 20 years and where the most promising avenues of investigation lie, and what the needs are in terms of more objective diagnostic measures, more effective therapeutics and treatments, and biomarkers for the condition that can be used not only for diagnosis and treatment but in other ways to monitor functional status, to evaluate how well treatments are working, to classify patients into subgroups as her little diagram with the little bodies showed. So we are very excited and enthusiastic about this campaign, and certainly the opportunity that having someone of Suzanne's knowledge, expertise, and enthusiasm brings to our organization. And what we will set out to do with these funds that we're raising, particularly for research, are to do many of the things that Suzanne's already talked about, is take all of that 20 years and 4,000 existing articles and look at that data in new ways, use new computational methods, bring new perspectives and other disciplines to the study of this illness, and help them have them help us see what may have already been uncovered in terms of past studies in new ways. We're also working on fostering new collaborations, and Dr. Vernon has spent quite a bit of time in her 6 months with the association on the road, out meeting with investigators, attending meetings, giving presentations, talking to people who have been in the field and who have ideas about where the research may be headed, and trying to bring them together in new, productive ways. And this also does entail bringing new scientists into the field from the field of sleep or the HPA axis or other infection, to help us build a critical mass of research that will lead to the types of discoveries that will make a difference in your everyday lives. And then sort of the last point is communicating about all of these things, not just with the patient community and other scientists, but more broadly. Suzanne put up the statistics from the CDC survey of healthcare professionals, and although most healthcare professionals recognize that CFS exists and understand its impact on your lives, too few of them are willing to do much about that in terms of making the diagnosis or caring for patients and being involved as caregivers. And we need to change that, and we need the scientific evidence to help change that. What have we done so far since launching this campaign? The association has funded, as Suzanne had indicated, about $5 million in research up to this point. On March 3rd, we issued a new request for applications, which is sort of an announcement to the scientific community that we're interested in funding research. And we have targeted for this year's research initiative biomarkers, diagnostics, and treatment. And that announcement was sent to over 500 researchers on a listserv that Suzanne helped us build, and we also promoted it on Science Magazine's website. And we received quite a robust response, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. We have, over the past few months, substantially revised our grant-making policies to be more in line with this idea of sort of entrepreneurial venture philanthropy, where you apply sort of tough love to your grantees and you make them conform to a set of progress indicators and benchmarks and performance requirements that in the past have been rather informal in most organizations. You kind of give the money to the researcher and let them do with it the best they can and hope for the best in response. And we are being much more results oriented in this round of grants that we will be making this year. Suzanne has given several presentations to many different groups around the world, literally, and has attended many conferences on our behalf, and as I stated earlier, begun some exciting collaborations. She and I together have done 2 research roundtables out in California and LA and Santa Barbara, and webinars like this to try and inform the patient community and caregivers and our supporters about what it is we're attempting to do and how it's coming so far. We have also engaged in sponsoring a couple of important international conferences. One is being put on by the HHV6 Foundation in June in Baltimore, and there was a question earlier about the study of valsite and CFS that's going on at Stanford right now, a controlled trial, and the results of that study are expected to be announced at the HHV6 Foundation conference in June. We're also working with the Japanese Society of Fatigue Science and the IACFS on an international conference that will take place in Okinawa in September. Dr. Vernon and I have held several meetings with staff at NIH and CDC about their research priorities and trying to engage both of these important institutions that have ongoing CFS research activities in a way that will, make the whole greater than the sum of its parts. And we've also spent some time on Capitol Hill talking with